Thanks everyone for joining. My name's Tim McMullen. I think you all know me. We have a little bit of a change this week, a little bit of, you guys get a break from listening to me talk for 30 minutes. We have Rihanna Patton from our training team who's going to go through some of the updates we've done for Grooper AI. You guys have, I think most everybody on this call has experience with Grooper. We have been innovating and continuing to go forward from just our original LLM integration to where we are today. And when Dylan and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, we realized there's been several significant updates to our extraction methodologies that we needed to have a webinar on to explain to y'all. So our normal housekeeping is in effect. So we have your phones muted. We do have the Q&A up though. So if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A, and I'll try to address them as they come up. Without further ado, Rihanna, you're up and on.
Thank you, Tim. Just give me a moment and I will share my screen.
Got it.
Okay, can everybody see my screen now?
Yep, we are good to go.
Excellent. Okay, so today what we're going to be talking about is we have a few new data section extractors that use AI to extract data. And we're going to go through all three of them. We also have a fourth data section extractor that does make use of AI, but we don't really have time to go over that one. If we get to the end and I have a little extra time, I'll discuss that a little bit. But the three main ones that are new is this AI section reader, AI collection reader, and AI transaction detection. So before we get into this, the first thing we need to do is just make sure that, of course, we have an LLM linked in our root node in our repository, which I already have that set up. And then after that, I'm going to show you, we have several batches I'm going to be working with today. So one of the drawbacks of using AI extraction methods is when you have limited resources, it can take a long time for us to get a call back or for us to send a call to the AI and get information back. So instead of sitting and just waiting for the AI every time we test an extraction, I've already pre-extracted the data based on the configuration I'm going to do for each section extractor. So I'm just going to go back and forth between these batches to show what would be extracted instead of making everybody wait for the extractor to actually finish collecting things. So that's why you'll see me go back and forth through some of these different batches. All right. With that said, I am going to go ahead and go into this first content model I have for the AI section reader. I have set up a data model and I have this data section, and we have some data elements, some data fields already configured here. They don't have anything on them. I've just added them. We don't have any sort of configuration actually done on the objects because AI is going to do all that work for us. Okay, so the first thing we need to do with the AI section reader is we're going to set the extract method to the AI section reader. And then we need to set our generator, which is our AI. We're going to set a model to whatever model you would use or would want to use for your AI. I'm just going to scroll down here and use GPT-5. There's many different models you can use. I'm going to save that. And honestly, just setting these two options can get you a lot of information just by itself. So I'm going to go to my tester tab, and the first batch I have here is this EOB batch. And let's see, yeah. So you see we have this payment ID, payment date, and providers 10 are the data fields that we already have set up, which on this document, all this information is located in this top header section. So we've got this payment ID here, we've got this payment date here, and this providers 10 here. And that's the information I want to collect from the document. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and test this out. And while that's processing, I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit more about AI section reader, what it is, and how it's generally used. So, oh, that was actually quicker than I expected. Well, that's awesome. Anyway, so what the AI section reader is a general purpose single instance section extract method. So for anything that we have just a single instance on a document, so like this payment date, all this header information is only on the document one time, the AI section reader is really good for that. It works a lot like AI extract in that you just basically tell it, hey, everything in this section, I want to extract using AI. And then using AI calls, it sends the document to the AI. And the AI, based on what you have set up in your model will try to determine what data you actually want extracted from this document. So that being said, if this operates a lot like just AI extract, why would you ever use a AI section reader instead of just using AI extract? The simple answer is generally this probably wouldn't get a lot of use. It may be more advantageous to just use AI extract, but in certain cases, like if you want to use AI extract or to extract information with AI, excuse me, you may just want to put everything you want extracted with AI inside of a section and just have the AI section reader just extract whatever is contained within that section. It can also be used as an organization tool, which can be helpful. But for the most part, AI section reader is more the code of AI section reader is the base for the code for some of our other data extraction objects or our data extraction properties, our AI extraction. So it's pretty simple to put together. As you saw, it extracts simple information. But really, where our AI section extraction really shines is when we come to multi-instance data that we want to extract. And that is where we come to AI collection reader. The AI collection reader is a general purpose multi-instance section extract method. So where the AI section reader was all about just single instance data, the AI collection reader is for multi-instance data. This particular extractor is really helpful for large documents as well, as this data extractor actually allows you to divide your document into chunks and send those chunks to the AI individually rather than sending the whole document at once. And there's a few reasons you would want to do that. Number one, you would want to do that if you have a lot more resources to pull from to run multiple threads on your extraction, sending multiple chunks at once, you can then run those extraction on those chunks in parallel. You can actually run them all at the same time, which can save you a lot of time when you are running AIX or these AI section extraction methods on a large document. The other reason, and honestly more important reason you may want to consider breaking up your document into chunks is when you send the document in chunks rather than the whole document at once, you're less likely to run into your input limit for the AI call. So each chunk will be sent on a different AI call. So you won't reach your limit of your input limit, and thus you won't lose a lot of the rest of the data on the document if you send too much data at once. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and start actually configuring this AI collection reader and show you how it works. And I'll explain a little bit more. I'll explain everything a little bit more in depth as I go. So the first thing, of course, we've got to set our extract method. I'm going to go in and set that to AI collection reader. And then I'm going to drop down to sub properties. And again, we need to tell it what model we want to use. So I'm going to go in and set it to the same model I used for the Chat GPT 5 or the GPT 5 model. Click OK. Save that out. And just pointing some of these things out down here is just some other properties you can use to refine how your AI collects data. The defaults are actually pretty good as far as sending your data to the AI. So for this demo, we're just going to use defaults. We're not going to change anything as inside of our generator property. Now, the next thing we want to look at is this chunk size. As I said, we can send our documents in chunks to the AI. The chunk size, whatever number you put in here, that's how many pages of the document will be considered as a single chunk. So if I leave it at default and I don't put anything in here, it's going to send the whole document as a single chunk. If I type in 1 here, then each page of the document is going to be its own chunk. If I type in 2, then 2 pages are going to be sent for each AI call. And then I could put in a 3 and so on. So then we have this property, the max degree of parallelism. That's how many chunks can be run at the same time. This is also limited by how many resources you have pointed at this repository. So it depends on like the number of threads you have and your activity processing services running. So even if I put 16 on here, I only have a single thread running to this testing environment. So even though this says 16, it's only going to process one chunk at a time. If I had more resources, then I could mess with this property a little bit more important for a production environment. So for our demo, I am just going to change this chunk size from none to 1. I want 1 page at a time going to the LLM. I would save that out, and then normally I would come to this tester tab and test it on the document. But especially because I only have one thread pointed at this machine at the moment, it would take quite a long time to even do a small document. So I'm just going to come into, well, here, let me go to the data model tester, and I will select this EOB that I have already extracted and show you what results I got from the exact same configuration I just showed you guys in the AI collection reader data section. We're getting pretty good results. We see this is a EOB that has multiple claims on it, and we're getting 17 sections returned. We're 17 instances returned. So this first instance, if we click through here, we can see that all this information seems to be coming in pretty good. Same for the table down here at the bottom. We're getting really good information just from a couple of clicks and a couple of properties that we set. We've got the second one here. We've got 3 all the way up to, let's click that one, 17. Now, the last one, we're seeing a little bit of an issue. This is because on the last page of this document, we don't have any claims, but the AI is still detecting some information on here and trying to put it into our extractor. So like this total paid by payer and this dollar amount, the AI is grabbing this from the last page. So what I would need to do is refine my AI extractor, AI collection reader just a little bit. We have this property called instructions. And this is where you can give more detailed instructions to the AI to tell it what to do, what to include, what not to include, that sort of thing, like you would most AI-enabled properties in Grooper.
Real quick, Rihanna.
Yes, of course.
We've got a question. I figure it would be easier to just answer it live because you're kind of where I want to show off the property. Mike McKinnon asked, if you have, say, 100 pages, but only want the first page read for AI and info extracted, would you use the chunk size for that? Then AI wouldn't be used for the rest. And the simple answer there, Mike, is no, you wouldn't use chunks to do that. You would get all 100 pages sent. It would just be, one page after the other in succession for 100 API calls total. What you're wanting to do actually is controlled by that document quoting property. And this is actually going to come up in a future webinar. By default, Grooper sends the entire document. Or, if we're talking about chunks, it's breaking the document into chunks. But for normal operations, that entire document is sent. If you need to change that, whether it's, say, hey, I would just want to send this first page or this extracted content or a couple other options, that is what that document quoting property does. So specifically, you would choose the extracted method, which would allow you to set an extractor that just returns the first page of the document. And then that would be all that would be sent to the AI. Thank you, Rihanna. Sorry for interrupting.
No, of course. I'm glad we got that question answered. Okay, so the next thing I was going to talk about is the instructions here. So in this case, I'm going to tell it to do not return, let's see, an instance if no data field objects return a result. I can spell result, even if the data columns do. Because we see at the end of the document, we were getting data columns returned, but nothing in the data fields. So this is something I can use to try and narrow down. Like you just tell it instructions of what you want it to do. So if there's nothing in the data fields, I don't want it to return an instance. And so I would save that and I would test that. Again, not going to actually test it here. I'm just going to show you what I got as a result when I type that in. And so now I actually need to open that in data model to see the extraction. Okay, so now you see we're actually only getting 16 instead of 17 multi-instances returned. So it completely threw out the results it found on this last page because of the instructions I put in. So, and we already answered the question about the quoting, so I won't go much into that. Sorry, that threw me off just slightly. Okay, so this is a very good general purpose extractor for multi-instance data on a document. It does have some drawbacks though. And one of the drawbacks comes when we have documents like this. This looks like the exact same document, but there's one specific change between this first one, this first batch, I'm sorry, this first document and the second document. If I scroll down to the bottom, we have some information that actually bleeds over to another page. So we have the patient's name, the patient account number, and the group on the first page, but the rest of the information is contained within this second page. If we are sending our document to the AI through different AI calls, and we're sending it via, like, we're just sending one page at a time, it's only going to look at a single page at a time for extraction. So it might extract some of this information and may not grab the rest of this information, or you may get fewer or additional instances that you don't want. So if I cycle through these and get to, yeah, so here it found all the information that is on the second page, but nothing that is here at the bottom on the first page. And that's one of the downsides of this particular extractor. If you run into this problem, you may consider using the AI transaction detection section extractor instead. Kind of the general practice you'll want to do is try the AI collection reader first and see if that returns what you're wanting from your documents. And then if that doesn't work, if you're running into issues or problems, then you may, depending on the structure of your documents, you may look at using this AI transaction detection because it works a little differently. I'm going to open this up and let me go back to this regular EOB document. So transaction detection, AI transaction detection works differently than the collection reader. The collection reader, when it is looking for information, it's looking at the data to be extracted and finding patterns within that data to determine what a section is. So like if it goes through and says, oh, I see there's some names here and there's a number here and there's some date of service and a bunch of currencies here and we've got some labels and stuff like that. And it sees, okay, so that's one area, scrolls down and finds the exact same type of information. It's going to see that as a pattern and determine that these are two separate sections. The AI transaction detection works a little differently. Instead of looking at the whole of the document and determining, okay, does all this information follow a specific pattern? Instead, it's going to look at the first part of a section and use that to anchor off of. So it may look at this document and say, okay, we have and then a name, and then a PT account, and then some words, and then GRP, and then some words. Okay, let's look through the document until we run into that again. Okay, this must start a new section. And then it anchors off of that and goes down until it finds the next anchor. So it runs a little bit differently. And because it anchors off of the top of the section and then goes until it finds the next section, it will actually detect information that goes from one page to another. It will reference this first heading here, this little heading section, recognize that as the beginning of the section, then it will continue on to the second page until it finds that next anchor. So this can be a lot more useful when you have overlap onto multiple pages. AI transaction detection is also, because of the way it anchors, it is very specifically designed to be used with sections that are very, very structured. Each one has the same structure. So it's a lot harder to extract sections with a transaction detection if it's more unstructured, not as much very label and value, where each section follows this very strict structure. Where this really comes in handy is for documents like EOBs or payroll documentation, payroll reports, stuff like that. There's just a couple examples where transaction detection works really well, which is why I'm using the EOB document for this particular demo. But let's go ahead and configure this AI transaction detection property data section. So I'm going to set the extract method, going to do AI transaction detection, drop that down. Once again, we're going to set the model.
Yeah, one thing I will say while you're configuring that, Rihanna, is we specifically built AI transaction detection to resolve EOB processing problems, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to work for other kinds of documents. Really, any document that has repeating sections where data is fairly regular or patterned, it should do a very, very good job at. As Rihanna is going to demonstrate here, it's the big thing it's doing in terms of AI is identifying patterns in what we're going to call anchor points. And it's a pretty slick way it does it. So I'll get out of your hair, Rihanna, and let you keep going.
No worries. Thank you, Dylan. So yeah, I went ahead and just set the extract method and set the generator property of the model to the GPT-5 again, and that we're going to use defaults. Now, if I leave it with this, we're not going to get anything extracted. If I were to test this with this particular batch that has not been extracted yet, we wouldn't get any data extraction results. That is because of this property here, this data extraction property. If you actually want the section itself to return data, we need to change this data extraction from disabled to enabled. If we leave this as disabled, the section is going to act like basically any other data section extractor you would use without AI, except that the section instance it finds is generated by AI. On the whole, most use cases, you want to turn your data extraction to enabled. There may be times where you want to leave it as disabled. It just really depends on your document set and what you're trying to do with your model. But for the most part, it's recommended to go ahead and set that data extraction to enabled.
Yeah, if you want to use AI to extract those fields, definitely enable data extraction here. Otherwise, Grooper assumes you're going to set extractors on each field.
With that enabled, I'm going to go ahead and show you what was returned with these properties by going to my data model tester. And then let me go ahead and select the transaction detection extracted batch. And so in this first document, we have 16 sections like we expect it to. Notice that without any instructions, we're not getting that junk from the last page. And that is because of the anchors. It didn't find any of those anchors on these pages, those anchor points on this page. So it just said there's nothing here for me to extract and just threw out all that information. Otherwise, this looks pretty good. Everything seems to be extracted like we expect. And now if I go to the second document where we had the pages overlap, you see we're getting the exact same number of instances in our extraction. And if we go to the one that was having trouble before, let's see, it's this next one, everything is being extracted, even though it is found on the second page. Let's see. Are there any other questions that have come up?
Not as of yet.
Okay.
And we're just about at the bottom of the hour, so we'll ask again if anybody has any questions, anything they wanted to see more clarification on. And if not, I think we'll not only bring to. Did you have more, Rihanna? I don't want to cut you off.
I just wanted to mention this is basically the end of what we were talking about today, but I did want to mention that we do have another extract method. I'm just going to reset this here to show that this clause detection extract method does have some AI capabilities, but we're not going to go into that at all. But that's more designed for like legal contracts and documents with natural language that are a lot more unstructured. And it does have some AI capabilities that can be looked into. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and we have gone over that in the past 6 months. I think we've done 2 separate seminars that are webinars that have had the clause detection on it.
Okay, excellent.
Specifically, we did a neural energy one last time around which had that for oil and gas leases.
Awesome.
Perfect. So Dylan and I were just talking before. Great. Well, thank you, Rihanna. We appreciate it. That's very good stuff. Dylan and I were talking about that. Obviously, we were led into the next topic that we're going to cover next probably in the next couple of weeks is the importance of document quoting. So Dylan and I will take that upon ourselves to build that out and possibly twist Rihanna's arm to help us out again. So other than that, if anybody has any questions or anything you want to follow up on, you know how to get a hold of me. Please feel free to reach out, and we greatly appreciate everybody's time today as always. Thanks much, and we'll be in contact soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.